Ember Witch. Book 1. The Lich. Volume 1. Black Tragedy. Chapter 1. The Blade in the Tree. April 5th to August 12th, 457 BME. Fragment 2. Betrayal of Blood.
I fear our hunters are in danger,
Sina explained as he paced back and forth. His eyes darted around the room to each member of the council.
What makes you think that?
Jolan asked as he set his cup on the table. The youngest of the council members, Jolan, was a white breed from the far north. His laid-back demeanor always came off as irresponsible and rude to Sina, but his knowledge of the Northern Territories made him a valuable member, despite this.
I say this because our scouts have felt a large blast of color come from the far eastern territory, Loka's color to be specific. This amount of energy was said to feel as if he had used every ounce of his magic at once. This is particularly troubling as Loka was a promising mage with enough energy to sustain himself for a full moon if not longer. I assume that the two of them have gotten themselves lost or even injured, and as a last-ditch effort Loka used his color to signal their location. We must send out a rescue party as soon as possible as to not lose two of our best hunters and brightest mages.
Sina explained as he continued to pace.
I say let them find their way back on their own,
Jolan said, leaning back in his chair.
Are you mad? Letting those two die out there would be a great loss to our clan. You are here under the Treaty of Moonlight. You should be more careful about what you say, young pup,
Gresha said as his ears twitched in disgust at Jolan's words. Jolan sat up straight, putting the chair firmly on the floor, and turned to Gresha.
I am here because my father thought my tracking abilities would be useful for you when the snow falls. Do not test me, old man. I have had more hunts and more kills than the lot of you combined.
Jolan growled, baring his fangs.
Calm down, you two, there is no need for violence,
Sina said, putting his hand out towards the two. Jolan and Gresha both sneered and then turned from each other, back to Sina.
Who do you suggest we send Sina? Perhaps Hila's kin or even the Vermo girls would be great picks.
Fallon spoke up for the first time since the council was brought together.
You expect females to do a male's job? You are all crazy.
Jolan shot out before Sina could answer.
Jolan, please keep your outbursts to yourself. We don't have time to fight when two hunters are in danger. As for who will go, I think it best to send Gilla, Tirtha, and Beric. They are the fastest and most talented with healing. I will summon them as soon as this meeting is over, and they should be back with our lost hunters before the next moon,
Sina said, staring daggers at Jolan, who was once again leaning back in his chair, cup of fermentberry tea in hand.
I agree with your suggestion, but perhaps Jolan should go as well. It would ensure the safety of all due to his natural abilities to track and improvise in any unknown circumstances the rescue team might encounter,
Gresha said in an attempt to keep the young wolf out of his way for some time. Gresha didn't hate Jolan, just couldn't stand his arrogance and immaturity compared to the rest of the council members. Jolan snickered, then took a large drink from his mug before setting it down.
I guess if you think I can be of use, but this doesn't mean I'm going to wait for the others. I can find them and bring them back without them,
Jolan said, then stood up, chugged the rest of his drink and walked out of the tent.
Jolan, please be patient, there is no need for such actions,
Sina said, but too late as Jolan was already gone.
Let him go, Sina. A young pup like him needs to feel strong. Remember how you were when you were his age,
Gresha said, and stood from the ground.
I just don't want his ambitions keeping him from seeing the bigger picture. My fear is that the two of them have gotten themselves into far more trouble than we can imagine,
Sina said as he walked to the door.
What can you tell me about this world?
The voice asked as Fevra pressed the blade into Loker's neck, making a small stream of blood drain onto his fur.
What do you mean?
He asked, looking into the black crystal, but keeping his gaze still far from the bright green eye that stared back at him.
You said that you call magic color. How does this energy work, and how do you harness such power? Are there gods that you worship, and how did a race of wolves come to learn these truths? I will admit this world has a familiar sense about it, almost as if I had seen it before, but the energy that surrounds us is twisted and mutated. The fact that I am here is an enigma to me. I have very little to go off of, but what I can remember is pain, deep empty blackness, and a name that escapes me. If you help restore my mind, I will grant you power beyond your imagination. This world could be yours.
The voice said as the eyes shifted within the blade, examining the forest around them.
I don't want to rule anything. I am not worthy of such things. As for our god, the great wolf Kellis granted her kin the abilities of creation and speech. We were born in her image and given the color to help us hunt. Color is not something anyone can use. You must be born with the ability to manipulate your aura and the aura of everything around you. Seeing as how you have stolen my color, I would surmise that you are a mage-born soul trapped within a sword. It isn't impossible but very unlikely that any mage could transfer their soul into an object. I will not help you take over this world, but I can help you regain yourself on one condition. You must let my brother go. Let him go from whatever spell you have over him, and I will take you to a grand mage who will be able to help you,
Loker said, now looking deeply into the eye. It blinked a sideways blink and then intensified.
You have no room for bargaining in your current position, but I do respect the decision. I will let your brother go when you take me to this grand mage, but cross me, try to bind me or destroy me, and your brother will die a most miserable death.
The voice said with such malice that it made Loker quiver. A few moments passed in silence as the glowing eye inside the blade shifted around. Almost as if it had seen something.
It seems there are more of your kind approaching us. I told you if you cross me your brother would die, and so it is that you have sent yourself down this path.
The voice from the blade said in anger.
I did no such thing. My clan must be searching for us. We were supposed to return by moonrise, so they must have sent out a tracking party to locate us,
Loker said, trying to keep the mysterious blade from killing Fevra.
Perhaps they brought a mage with them who could help you recover your identity. This could be the best scenario for all of us.
He continued, but was quickly interrupted.
Loker, run. It doesn't plan to kill me, it is you it wants dead.
Fevra yelled in a strained voice. Loker choked as he heard his brother speak for the first time in what felt like hours. He swatted the blade from his throat and began to run towards the archway of the route. He stumbled at first, but got his footing quickly and ran as fast as he could, trying not to look back at his brother.
They are very close, just past this route,
Jolan said as the pack reached the old tree. Loker came sprinting out of the archway and collided with Jolan, causing them both to tumble to the ground.
Are you mad? Get off me.
Jolan yelled as he scrambled to his feet.
Go, we must save Fevra,
Loker said, trying to stand but fumbled and stayed on his hands and knees.
What is going on, Loker?
Gilla asked as she helped him stand.
Also, you were calling for your pack. What a great night this is. Tell me, girl, do the males find your muddy color attractive, or are you ashamed of yourself for having the aura of shit?
A sinister voice said as Fevra walked through the archway wielding a massive black crystal sword placed upon his shoulder. The deep green eye flowing around the crystalline structure like water, looking deeply into each wolf before it.
Fevra, why would you say such a thing?
Gilla asked with hurt in her voice.
It's not Fevra, it's the sword he carries. It has a mind of its own. We must bind it before it causes Fevra to act,
Loker said, trying to keep Gilla from becoming more upset. Before a single one could move, a deep black liquid drained from the blade and ran down to Fevra's body.
Come no further, beast, or your friend will die,
the blade said as the black blood dribbled onto the ground.
What do you want from us?
Turda asked as he watched Fevra carefully.
I only seek answers,
The blade replied calmly, as if it didn't care that it was surrounded by Mageborn.
Answers for what?
Gilla asked, stepping forward slowly.
I seem to have lost my memories. I only seek to understand where I came from and who I am. This young wolf was kind enough to answer my questions up to this point, so perhaps I can learn more about this world I find myself in.
The blade answered again with a calm tone.
I don't care for this game. You will release Fevra from your grasp now, or we will be forced to destroy you,
Jolan said, pulling his sword from its sheath.
You dare raise a blade against me? You are a foolish one, aren't you?
The blade said, putting its deep green gaze upon him. Fevra flashed into action, swinging the crystal sword with ease, despite its massive size. Jolin raised his sword to deflect the blow, but before he could make his retaliation, the sword he held in his hands shattered into pieces. The three healers drew their blades in response and took ready stances.
Foolish indeed,
the blade said as Fevra slashed again, just missing Jolin, who had jumped backwards, dropping his broken sword to the ground. Gilla pulled her aura around herself and threw a brown fireball towards the blade. In an instant, the fireball dissipated as the crystal blade slashed through it. Fevra stepped forward, using the weight of the sword to propel himself, and severed Gilla's head from her body. Her head smashed into the ground and rolled several feet from her body, that followed crashing into the dirt. Loker screamed as her blood splattered onto his fur.
Gilla! By the gods, what have you done, Fevra?
Beric choked out as he rushed forward, attacking Fevra's hands. Fevra jumped back, using one hand to grip Beric's arm. His movement was so strong it caused Beric to tumble to the ground, falling on his stomach. Fevra, now staring straight to Loker, with tears running down his face, plunged the blade into Beric's back, then wrenched it to the side to ensure his death. Loker fell to his knees at the sight of his brother murdering two of their pack.
Tirtha, and you are the only mage born left. You must bind that thing before we are all dead.
Jolin yelled, then picked up Gilla's sword.
I can't use my color. It was drained from me before Fevra drew the sword. There is nothing I can do,
Loker said, trying to hold back tears.
Fucking worthless pup, get out of here before we are all dead. Tell the council, go.
Jolin yelled, then swung the short sword, trying to sever Fevra's hands. Loker stood and scrambled to his feet and began running from the scene. Tirtha drew his color and ran forward, attempting to cast a bind upon the blade before Fevra could draw it from Beric's body. Fevra jumped into the air, using the blade to balance himself on, and flipped over the two attackers, pulling the blade and body from the ground. As he landed, he flung the blade forward with such force that Beric's body slid off and flew towards Loker, who was knocked to the ground by the force of the body smashing into him. Tirtha spun around, trying to catch the blade on the back swing, but was swiftly kicked to the ground by Fevra's foot to his face. Jolin raised his sword and slashed at Fevra's leg, catching him by the foot. A great gash opened up, draining blood onto the dirt. Fevra fell hard but recovered swiftly. Gripping the sword tightly, he stood up and pointed it straight down. Black blood rushed around the crystalline surface, and with a quick slash, the blood flowed in a blur. Jolin and Tirtha gasped as the blood curved into an arch and sliced Loker and Beric's bodies into pieces.
I sought answers and you respond with violence. Now you see how foolish you truly are. Their blood is on your hands. Or should I say Fevra's?
The blade laughed. Then again Fevra was on the move. Due to the injury to his foot, he was slower, but still nimble and responsive. Tirtha drew more energy and ran forward, placing his palm out. He sent a shockwave of orange energy, which struck the blade as Fevra used it to hide behind. He let the wave settle before he dragged the blade deep into the dirt and flung the soil into Tirtha's face. Now blinded by the attack, he could not respond to the crushing force of the blade, slicing him in half from skull to pelvis. As the body fell into two pieces, blood exploding upon the two combatants, Jolin watched the deep green eye stop. It shook and vibrated as if it was struggling to move.
What have I done?
Fevra said, still gripping the blade. He fell to his knees, looking into the gore of Tirtha's destroyed body.
That last spell worked. For all the gods' love, it worked.
Jolin said, as he dropped the sword from his shaking hands.
Loker? Where is he?
Fevra asked, letting the blade fall from his grip.
He's dead. You used some sort of magic to kill everyone,
Jolin said, pointing to the pile of body parts heaped together at the foot of a tree. Fevra looked behind him and vomited as he viewed his brother's head slipping from the pile of gore.
I couldn't have.
Fevra sobbed as he crawled towards his brother's corpse.
Believe it and get over it. We must go back to the council and take care of this mess,
Jolin said, walking up to Fevra and pulling him to his feet.
I am not sure how long the spell will last that stopped you, but I sure as fuck will not let you touch that sword again. We will leave it here and come back with the Grand Mage now. Move.
Jolan said, shoving Fevra forward after he had drawn his amber sword from its sheath. He placed it at his back as they walked, trying to ignore Fevra's crying and the stench of vomit permeating from him.